Howdy y'all, and welcome back to VYPE Walker Talk, Austin, San Antonio. My name is Thomas Bingham, joined alongside by Evan Barr. We are the voices for sports talk in the Austin, San Antonio Hill Country. We're excited to be kicking off another edition of this program. This is episode 2. Y'all heard our volleyball preview earlier. Now we're going to be talking some small school UIL, 1A through 3A, plus some TAPS, TCAL, SBC. There's some great programs in both public and private school competition. And when you look down the list, you see some big-time programs at the top. You want to go share the top 10s for both areas as well as public and private?
Absolutely. Let's do it. So we'll start with the VYPE Austin Public School Small School Top 10. Number 1 is Cameron Yo. Number 2, San Saba. Number 3 is Mason, followed by Blanco, Holland. Number 6 is Burton. 7, Granger, followed by Rockdale, Schulenburg, and finally Lexington. Thomas, I'm a little confused.
What are you confused about?
Why do we have Mason at number 3 when they are the 2A Division I state champions?
Because they lost so much talent from that team. I know they went 6-0. I know they won a state title, but when you lose as much talent as they did, you get a team like San Saba becoming the front runner in Class 2A. And you can't even forget about the power that's Cameron Yo, which is another Central Texas juggernaut. You know, you can't always be number 1. I don't believe this is Mason's year to repeat, especially, with the amount of talent that they lost to graduation.
For sure. And Cameron Yo, coming in the 3A realm, they lost in a very, very tight game to East Chambers last year, 34-35. And other than that, they only lost one other game. So I'm agreeing with you here. They have 11 returning people coming back to their sidelines. So that is a pretty decent choice at number 1. But I was very confused with Mason, 16-0 and number 3 in the rankings.
Yeah, and especially like for San Saba, I know they got double-digit starters back. I mean, on both sides of I guess in total, there's double digit, but obviously there's a good balance from offense and defense. Also, another notable is Rockdale, another Central Texas power. They are towards the bottom. They are number 8. They got a big-time recruit in Cameron Valdez. This guy has offers from Texas Tech, Michigan, Houston, another one. I mean, this is a player that can restore the great tradition at Rockdale. Watch out for Rockdale. They could be a sleeper.
Well, that's exciting stuff. Let's move on to some VYPE San Antonio public small schools. Now, some of these schools you may only know if you go there. So I think that it is important that we do kind of give them some
shout-outs. Or you come to VYPE, because we have to know all the towns that are in both areas.
No, exactly. Like it's some real like one light towns coming in. Starting with number 1 is Yoakum, 2 Falls City, 3 Goliad, followed by George West. Number 5 is Jordanton. Number 6, with a grand total of 2 stoplights in their town, is Poth. Number 7 is Blanco, followed by Marion, Shiner, and finally La Pryor. Thomas, what do you
this is a battle of stoplights. They may end up being the number 1 in terms of teams on this list.
It's ironic though, because with the amount of stoplights that they have in their towns, it probably takes about 2 to 3 hours to get from each other. From one to the other. What do you make of this top 10? And I know we have Yoakum at number 1, but last year Goliad was pretty solid. Do they have the returning players to make a competitive season this year?
Oh, they definitely do. I mean, there's a reason why I put them at number 3. But the team I'm actually watching for is Falls City. I mean, this is a team that has almost 20 starters back. And that's just a great number of players.
And you didn't put them at number 1?
They went 14-1 last year. They're a 2A program. I gave Yoakum the 3A.
So the size
team, the number 1. I mean, Yoakum's really good. There's a reason why we put him number 1. But in 2A, Falls City is going to be a power. I mean, people were disappointed when they lost in the second to last round of the playoffs, which rightfully so. I mean, if you go that far in the playoffs, you should be disappointed. You should want a little bit more. But knowing that you have so much talent back, so much depth on both sides of the ball, there is no reason for Falls City to not make it to Arlington's AT&T Center in December, the week before Christmas. I mean, George West, the same thing. Another very deep program. You know, I remember when I was putting together the playoff invite list, and I'm just like, man, I want to invite that kid and that kid and that kid and that kid. I mean, and you can't even forget about, like, you know, some of these other programs. I mean, Shiner's a really good program, and they're at number 9. Mm-hmm. I mean, so, you know, just because you're number 9 doesn't mean you're a bad program. There's a lot of good teams on this list, and I can't wait to see some of these teams battle on the field.
Well, if you're number 9, you're within the top 10 in the region, Thomas.
Exactly. Well,
so
at least in the Austin area, or the San Antonio area.
It's a pretty good step to be. I do want to mention something about Poth is they have 11 returning players, 8 of them on offense. I am very excited to see what their offense looks like. They've only got 3 returners on defense.
That could be a little bit of a concern.
It could be, but a lot of these players are playing both ways. We're talking the small schools. They're playing. We've got a receiver, running back. We've got an offensive line, defensive lineman over here. By the way, this guy is Kevin. Let's try to say his name. Zayonitz. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. I'm curious to know why this guy hasn't been looked at by any major colleges that I'm aware of, because that's massive. But he's also blocking for the former district MVP in Drew Aravelos. He's coming off a fantastic season.
He's a great threat in the backfield.
Exactly. And of course, when you've got linemen as big as he has blocking for him, it's hard not to be that good.
Well, then, you know, when you turn the page to private school, there's some interesting programs in both areas. I mean, if you look at it, going from 1 to 10, you got Region School of Austin.
Well, let's name them.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'll lead the charge this time. I'll take the
I'll
the
shut
list.
up and listen.
So you got number 1, Region School of Austin. And this is a program that has a quarterback who used to be a Texas Tech commit. He recently decommitted. So obviously this is a player that is going to be leading Regions most likely back to the state title game. You know, they felt, you know, defeated, you know, in terms of, you know, falling just short of the state title last year, but expect them to be very hungry once again. This is a phrase that I will continue to bring up in the football realm of things. You know, when a team just fell short of a goal last year, just trust me, you will continue to hear me talk about that. And then you get Texas School for the Deaf. Cool to see the Rangers that high. They went a couple rounds deep last year. I love the talent they got back. Obviously, this would be a great story. If any of y'all missed out, their girls basketball team went 31-0 in the regular season last year and was the national deaf champions.
That's awesome.
So obviously, I know it's a different gender, different sport, but you know, sometimes that athletic success jumps from one sport to another. I mean, we didn't even mention that for Blanco. You know, for on the public school, small school rankings. I mean, their baseball team just fell short of the state title last year, reached the state final in a heartbreaking fashion. Just trust me, it happens. It sometimes doesn't make sense, but there are times where there's a program that just, you know, breaks on the scene, and then all the other sports, all the other athletes are like, hey, we got to step up as well and, you know, make some history as well. So watch for them. Brentwood Christian School, a good, solid program historically. Cedar Park 7th Christian Academy is a 6-man program. You got Hyde Park, who is in that same district with Regents and Brentwood, a very strong district that also has Austin St. Michael's. St. Michael's isn't in that district, but overall it's a very strong district. Hyde Park, I already mentioned Hyde Park. Fredericksburg Heritage School, we've talked about them, at least for volleyball. Can't forget about Austin Veritas Academy, Hill Country Christian School of Austin, Austin Saints. This is an interesting story because you got 2 schools, Austin St. Andrews Episcopal School and Austin St. Stephen's Episcopal School. They merged last year. This is their second year under one football team, obviously because of enrollment numbers and attendance numbers in terms of, you know, player participation. They weren't able to continue to have 2 different programs, but it's cool to see that they are still going to continue to send players from those schools and compete in SBC. All the other programs I've mentioned for VYPE Austin are in TAPS. And then Getting State School, interesting story because, you know, this is a program every single year. They lose tons of players because they go through that system. I mean, this is one of those schools that allows kids to kind of get their lives back on track. This is a program that went to the state semifinals last year. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of players that weren't on that team last year, but this coach has been at this particular program for decades. He's historically led this program to great heights, had to round out the Austin Private School top 10 with that school.
Just to put those in order, number 1 was Regent School of Austin, 2 was Texas School for the Deaf, 3 was Brentwood Christian School, 4 Cedar Park Summit Christian Academy, followed by Hyde Park, then Fredericksburg Heritage School, Austin Veritas Academy at 7, 8 is Hill Country Christian School of Austin, followed by Austin Saints, and finally Giddings State School. Going to San Antonio Private School, we've started the list with Seguin Lifegate Christian School. Number 2 is Geneva School of Bernie. 3 is Hallettsville Sacred Heart Catholic School, followed by Shiner St. Paul. Number 5, Holy Cross of San Antonio. 6, Bracken Christian School. Number 7, San Antonio St. Mary's Hall, followed by Antonian College Preparatory. San Antonio St. Anthony Catholic is number 9, followed and rounded out by Fredericksburg Heritage School. Again, Fredericksburg making both of those lists.
Exactly. And, you mentioned Lifegate, and this is a program that has won back-to-back state titles in 2 different leagues. 2 years ago, they won the TAP state title. Last year, they won the TCAL state title. There's no reason for this program to be any less than number 1 going into the season. Geneva made a deep run last year, made it to the state title game. Shiner St. Paul was an interesting story last year because they went 6-8, but won the TAPS 11-man Division IV state title. They lost a good chunk of their talent. I do expect Hallettsville to win that division last year. I know Shiner St. Paul ended up as the state champ because they were able to beat them in the postseason, but I like Sacred Heart. I love the talent they got back. Expect Sacred Heart to kind of be that TAPS Division IV contender for the state title, at least from this area. Can't forget about the state champs from last year in Shiner St. Paul, but obviously Sacred Heart is the front runner in TAPS Division IV. San Antonio St. Mary's Hall was a TAPS Division V state finalist last year. You also have St. Anthony Catholic, who made it to the TCAL 11-man state final 4. And then Antonian, they're a 6A program. They probably won't be as good as they have been in certain recent seasons, but they are going to be the best 6A program in this area. So there's got to be a place on this list for them.
Well, that was our small school and private school previews and rankings from our second episode of VYPE Locker Talk. You can catch us next week as we talk about all the big schools from 6A down to 4A. And then, of course, in 2 weeks from now on August 26th, we'll release our very first episode of the season that follows all these preview rankings for the season. We thank you for tuning in to us. And Thomas, if anybody wants more information, where can they find it?
Yeah, definitely make sure that you follow us on social media, VYPE ATX, VYPE SATX on Twitter, VYPE Texas, Facebook, and Instagram. Don't forget our website, VYPE.com. Obviously, can't forget about the VYPE Live broadcast. They do a great job throughout the school year. There's a lot of great things that we're doing at VYPE, especially locally. Check us out. Big and Bar sign off. Talk to y'all next week.